Hi there, welcome to 31 Days of Halloween Down the Red Rabbit Hole. I'm author Bella Ellwood Clayton, and I'm here to talk about one of the scariest nights of my life when I faced evil. And also to talk about my books at the end, The Swimming Group, and Weekend Friends. Both of those books are set in America, but my story takes place in Australia, where my father was. I was raised in Canada. So, okay, I'm going to talk to you about this night. And basically, to set the scene, I was 17 and I'd gone to visit my father in Melbourne. And I spent some time with him, and then I was taking a bus trip up the East Coast, and it was really cool. It was one of those kind of tickets where you could have unlimited stops, and so that's great as a tourist. You could stop at lovely places, and I was really excited to travel alone and experience the world that way. So there was lovely stops like, Sydney, Byron Bay, Noosa, Townsville, and my end goal was to get up to Cairns. I did know at the time that there was a serial killer out in Australia. People were talking about him as the backpack killer, or that he was after backpackers. However, Australia is a really big country, and he was after hitchhikers. He was apparently killing hitchhikers. So it didn't concern me or my fellow travelers that much. We just went about our merry business. Okay, so anyways, I was enjoying my travel solo. I'd stopped in a town called Townsville one evening, and it was Friday the 13th. And Townsville is a coastal, I'm not sure, town on the east coast of Australia. Has quite a large military base, and it was around, what time of the day? Just around dinner time, pre-twilight. I was getting a bit hungry, and I was staying at a backpacker's place. So I thought I'll just walk down the back, it's sort of a fairly main street. I'll walk down 2 blocks to one of the cafes I saw earlier and pick up a bite to eat. So I headed out. I was walking down the street. As I was walking, I remember looking up at the moon briefly, and then I could see the lights of the store I was going to, maybe half a block ahead. I noticed to my left there was a car park, and it was starting to get a bit darker. And then before I knew it, there was a sort of running, or like an intense, sorry about those email alerts. There was an intense, fast, speedy sound from behind me. And I got thrown to the ground from behind. And then I was on the ground. There was a huge man on top of me, really big. I don't know, like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", I don't know, big muscles. And his face was dead. There was nothing in his eyes whatsoever. He was grabbing at me, probably trigger warning, trying to rape me, attack me. I don't know what his end goal was going to be. Luckily, we were on quite a busy street, and I was screaming. People later found my shoes. One of my shoes were really quite far away because I must have been kicking so much. And this is not the story of evil that I'm coming to talk to you about. This is the first story of a sequence of events. So that night, people came to my rescue. The man ran off and they got him, and the police had come and they'd got the man. Unfortunately, however, because I was a tourist and I wasn't going to be in this town, 3 months later to give testimony, they were going to take him to the local police station and then let him loose at midnight. So I was absolutely terrified, completely shaken. I stayed at a local hotel, and I caught the next bus out of there. Now, from what I recall, this was, maybe I had a pre-bought ticket or something, because it's a night bus. And I know I was going up to Cairns, obviously very shaken from being attacked by this stranger, this man. And I remember getting on the bus, just being grateful that I was leaving the town, leaving the place where that man was, now roaming free. And there was another man sitting, maybe, if I was on the left aisle, he was on the right aisle, I think maybe 2 rows ahead. It was dark, and we were driving into the night, and this man kept slowly turning around, just swiveling his head and looking back and staring at me. And that one stare was a million times worse than the huge man throwing me to the ground and trying to do whatever he was going to do with me, groping me, all his weight on top of me. That was nothing in comparison to the fear I felt from this man's eyes. Anyways, he kept continuing to look back at me like that. I was so terrified. There was a truck stop. We got out, and I remember looking at the rotating kind of book stand, and he came over. He was stocky, leathery skin, muscular, maybe my height. And he kind of like looked in a leering way at the sort of Mills and Boons types books with the, cosset, sort of sexy covers. He was sort of looking at them closely and then again giving me this intense eye contact. So terrified, I went up to the bus driver and I said, when I get back on the bus, I'm deadly afraid of this man. He keeps looking at me and I'm scared. And the bus driver honestly didn't take it very seriously. And I just white knuckled it into our next destination. When I arrived at the next destination, the final destination, the man just got off. I never saw him again. Got some notes here about what happened. Okay, and then I just went back to Canada and did my thing and tried to heal from those, that awful experience of being attacked. Now, a number of years later, I came back to Australia, and Ivan Milat, the backpack killer, had been arrested. And there was an image of him in the article. And to me, it looked like that man that was staring at me on the bus. That's who I thought it was from the image in the newspaper. It's impossible to say. I don't know if the dates totally added up. We don't know his whereabouts at certain times. But that man's look was the most evil thing I've seen in my almost 50 years of life. So he is, Ivan Milat, considered the worst serial killer in Australian history. And he was arrested on May 22nd, 1994, for killing 7 backpackers and being suspected of killing more. Things that they found were on his property and his family's properties were rifles that matched the type used in the murders, a pistol, a knife, and then kind of souvenirs that belonged to his victims: foreign currency, clothing, tent, sleeping bags, camping equipment, and cameras. He was initially arrested on robbery and weapon charges, and then had those 7 backpack murders, and he died in jail many years later. So that's my story of evil. I'm going to move on to tell you a touch about my books and then say goodbye. Yes, so I'll start with the swimming group and give you one liner on what this is about. It takes a deep dive into the entangled lives of tragic wives, a dawn swimming group in Cape Cod, who find themselves swept into a riptide of suspense and suspicion when one of their own goes missing. There's sharks, there are lots of fun characters and big twists. So please check that out. Joffe Books is the publisher. And Weekend Friends, which Leanne Moriarty called unputdownable. This domestic suspense follows a mother and daughter fleeing their dark past in Alaska, only to discover that toxic social hierarchies exist in Florida's gated community, and middle school is equally dangerous with its secrets, manipulation, and maybe a bit of forbidden romance. And that was Post Hill Press, who was my publisher. That's all we have today. I'd like to thank you for being here with me in this dark little hole and remind you to follow the Red Rabbit on social media. Do subscribe, as it costs you nothing and makes a big difference to the podcast. It encourages your usual hosts, Envy Peacock and Lisa Shepherd, to continue with their mad ramblings on here. You can find my links in the show, so take a look at my books, and happy Halloween.